Howdy folks, welcome to 3-2. 3-2 is about solving inequalities by adding or subtracting. Now we're going to start out with just one-step inequalities, and these are going to look very much like one-step equations. Okay, we're going to use the same steps. We have to get the variable by itself, and we're going to use inverse operations to do that, okay? So first of all, remember from chapter 2 that we use inverse operations to undo operations in an inequality. So if it has addition, we would use subtraction. And also the rule that we emphasized in chapter 2 as well, whatever you do to one side of the inequality, you have to do to the other. Don't forget about that. So here's an example, and what you'll be asked to do today is solve and graph. So I have x plus 12 is less than 20. I have addition here, so I have to use the opposite, which would be subtraction. So I have to subtract 12, that's going to cancel out, I'm just going to have x. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so I'm going to subtract 12. Now 20 minus 12 is 8, and my inequality symbol stays the same. So my solutions here would be all values of x less than 8. So I go over to my number line. Remember, I have an open circle because it's just less than, and then my arrow is going to go to the left, less than left, just like we learned in section 1. And that would be my answer to that example. Here's another one. Now this one contains subtraction. D minus 5 is greater than negative 7. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Over here, negative 5 plus 5 is 0. So I have D greater than negative 7 plus 5. Those are different signs. I'm going to subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's going to be negative 2. So D is greater than negative 2. So go over to my graph. Again, I have an open circle because it's just greater than, and greater than goes to the right. So my arrow is going to go to the right. That would be my solution for that inequality. Now let's look at this one. Now notice here that the variable is on the other side. We kind of talked about this in section 1. So I'm going to do the same thing. I have subtraction, so I'm going to add 0.3 to both sides. Over here, negative 0.3 plus 0.3 is 0, so just have n less than or equal to, this is going to be 1.2. Okay. Now remember, we talked about when the variable's on the other side, it will make it easier. You will just write it the other way and flip the sign. Okay, so n is less than or equal to 1.2. So my number line, I put 1.2 on there. Remember, I have to have at least 5 numbers. I'm going to put those on there. This one I have a closed circle because it's less than or equal to. And since it's less than or equal to, my arrow is going to the left. Okay? Now, of course, we can never get out of a section without talking about story problems. Woohoo! Sammy has a gift card. She has already used $14 of the total value, which was $30. Write, solve, and graph an inequality to show how much more she can spend. Now, our variable, what's it going to stand for? It's going to stand for the money she has left. Right? So, the money she has left plus the money she's already used cannot be any more than $30, or no more than $30. So, hopefully you're thinking, well, there's that phrase, no more than. That has to be less than or equal to. Can't be more than $30 because that's all our gift card is. So here would be our inequality. Now, just like in chapter 2, many of you were just tempted here to do 30 minus 14 and have the answer. That's great, but it says write an inequality. So we have to write an inequality and then solve. So then I'm going to minus 14, minus 14. X is less than or equal to 16. So that means she can spend $16 or less. And then let's go ahead and graph this. 16, 17, 18, 15, 14. Here I'm going to have a closed circle because it's less than or equal to, and arrow to the left. Okay? Let's look at one more story problem before we finish up this section. So Mrs. Lawrence wants to buy an antique bracelet at an auction. She is willing to bid no more than $550. So far the highest bid is $475. Write and solve an inequality to determine the amount Miss Lawrence can add to the bid. Alright, so X is going to be the amount she can add. So we have the current bid, which is $475, plus the amount that Miss Lawrence can add. Can't be any more than or no more than, so less than or equal to, $550. So there's my inequality, and once again I'm going to solve. So I have to subtract 475 whoa, brain's not working right here. 475. So then I have X less than or equal to $75. So put that on my number line. Closed circle, and it's less than, so it has to go to the left. Okay, so that's what story problems look like. I'm expecting to see an inequality written out like I showed you here, solved, and then graphed. That's it for 3-2. See you guys tomorrow.